How you going, monks? Welcome back to the channel. Going to be going through the entire patch today, 14.21, all the changes, what tier list there is, and we're going to jump straight into it. So, Brand, passive nerfed by a little bit, by 1%, not really that big of a change. The mana increased, mana regen decreased, mana of Q increased, sorry, mana regen decreased. Again, not that big of a change. It's not really going to matter too much for jungle, because it's more so a solo lane target nerf. Elise, armor growth reduced by 0.7. Not that big of a change. If you want to hit Elise, you need to hit her early game prowess. They're not targeting that, so she's still going to be S tier. Fiddlesticks, this damage nerf is, I would say, moderate. It's not too big, it's not too small. You're definitely gonna feel it, but it's not 1%. This is not going to change the world. The amp damage is similar. It's not going to change the world, but you are going to feel it. Gwen, the passive is, I would say this doesn't look like too big of a change, but when I did play it in scrims and whatnot, I did feel it a little bit. So the 0.12% per 100 AP of the target's maximum health damage might not seem like it's massive, but when you kind of think about how many times you actually use it, it does come down, does amount to quite a bit. So this is like I would say, again, a moderate nerf. Next champion, Karthus ult, what's it called? Scaling reduced by 5%. Not that big of a change. He's still going to be strong, right? Not going to be S tier, but he's not going to be below A tier either. Talon changes. Talon changes here. The return damage. The thing about Talon is this return damage buff on the scaling and on the actual damage by 10 and 10% respectively is pretty big, in the sense that in mid game it's probably going to be a lot stronger, right? And early game, I guess, it'll be stronger. But will this change his late game? Not really. I feel like Talon still isn't that great of a skirmisher in the early and mid game, even with this change. But late game, Talon's always going to be a monster, right? And you're always going to be that assassin that can pick people off before fights, so he's still going to be strong. But I don't think this change really does too much. But obviously, it's good to have. Viego, much like Elise, you're getting the 0.6 armor growth nerf. Just want to say though, that's not the biggest change, not the biggest nerf to Viego this patch. It's the Bork nerfs you'll see in a second, but we'll just go through Volibear. 2-second increase on the cooldown for E, and yeah, here's the Bork nerf. So the Bork nerf pretty much is that you're losing 2% of enemy targets' current HP when you're a melee. So I'm not going to go through the range changes, because I don't really think there's any ranged jungle that you build Bork on. Probably Kindred, but you don't build Bork on it anymore. So I think Bork was a pretty good item for these last 3 patches when because Kraken got nerfed in 14.18, right? But now with the 2% nerf, I think it's going to change a lot of things. So when you're playing Bel'Veth, when you're playing Viego, I don't think Bork is a good first item anymore. 2%, I think Bork and Kraken were already very close last patch. So to nerf 2% from it really does make sense to me. I mean, I understand like Viego's a bit strong right now, but all the other champions that use it, like Yi's strong, but he's not like OP, right? Viego was OP. So I think nowadays on all those champions, you kind of just have to lean towards Kraken, really. But yeah, it's definitely going to shake up a few things. It's the most important change to jungle in this patch. So now onto a tier list. So most broken jungle in the game, there are 2. If you're very good, actually no, I'll do the one that easiest one to play, and that is the strongest one, is Skarner. I think he's easy to pick up. If you learn how to use his E, you're very good at that champion. I think he's just strong. He does a lot of damage. He's very tanky. He can do everything. He's got a bunch of CC. He takes camps quickly. He takes objectives quickly. He can gank from weird angles. I think he's by far the strongest jungler, unless you know how to play Elise. If you can play Elise, these two are interchangeable. But Elise is always a solo queue stomper when she's in the meta. When she's strong, she's always going to stomp solo queue. So I'll put her right here. I think the item changes also benefit her greatly. So I think she's just neck and neck with Skarner. The only reason I'm putting her below is because I think Skarner is completely broken. Third champion. There's 2 Udyr's here. I don't know if I put Udyr 3. I'll probably put Ivern number 3. Just because this champion is completely broken. I think since 14.18, probably the most underrated champion in the game is Ivern. Now, what the 14.18 changes were that they decreased item efficiency. So it meant that items, they cost more, but they give you less. So that also means that fights play out slower because you have less damage. And so when fights are slower, enchanters are always going to be stronger because you can't one-shot them, right? And also they can use their shields and whatnot a lot more times. So I think Ivern mega benefits with how the meta is currently. So I think he's definitely up there. Not sure if I put him number 3, but definitely top 4 for sure. I'll just do these in order. Udyr is S tier. I'm not sure if he's top 4, but he's definitely S tier. I think Udyr's strong at taking objectives, good at farming, does a lot of damage, is very tanky, much like Skarner, except he doesn't have the mobility Skarner has, and he doesn't have the CC Skarner has. That's the only reason he's a bit worse than Skarner. But when it comes to damage, he's got that damage. When it comes to AoE, he has the AoE. I think he's got some hard CC, which is great. But I don't think he's as strong as Skarner. I think Vi, I would put Vi in A tier. I think Vi is very, very strong, but the thing is, when you're playing Vi in solo queue, if you go in and your teammates don't, it spells disaster every time. So, whilst Vi is an easy champion to pick up, I think it's hard to master, and I think it's fair to put her in this A tier. She could move up to S, right? But I think A is probably the most appropriate. I think Nocturne is definitely S tier. I think he's easy to play. He's very mobile when it comes to... sorry, not mobile in that sense, but he can cheat tempo very well. Like, you can be on one side of the map and alter the other. That's always good. I think he's good at farming, so it's good for efficient clearing. If you struggle with clearing, Nocturne's a very good pickup, right? Also, I think his objective take is not bad. His 1v1 skirmishing power is insane. And yeah, I think it's fair to put him in S tier. I think Lilia... This might be a bit controversial. I think he's no longer SRA. Just think she's phased out of the meta. Like, she can't beat Udyr anymore, which is a champion she used to dominate. You can't do much against Skarner. You can't deal with any of these S tier champions. She sucks against Vi. She would suck against Viego. All these champions that are S tier, she sucks against. You can't really put her in S or A tier, even though individually she's alright. When you compare it to the champions she's bad against and what champions are in the meta currently, I think she's just not that good. Amumu, it's B or A, but I would probably say B, just above Lilia, just because he has more CC to offer. I also think he does like pretty much same damage as Lilia and is a lot more tanky. So I think whilst Amumu isn't the greatest, right, your Q range isn't as high as it used to be, I think it's still decent. And yeah, he's still not a terrible jungler, but after the hotfix nerfs, he's like a lot worse for sure. Viego, I would still put S tier. Now, I know I talked about the Bork nerfs hitting him hard. Good thing about Viego is you can build Kraken. But is he stronger than Udyr? Is he stronger than Skarner like he was last patch? I wouldn't say so. But is he definitely S tier? Yeah, for sure he's S tier. Okay, Fiddlesticks, I'm going to put him on A tier. I think the nerfs weren't too big, but those nerfs still don't feel good for him. I think he was S tier for sure, but he was back of S tier. I think now he's top of A tier. Definitely I put him above Vi actually. It's good solo queue stomper. Good at everything. Farming. Can skirmish a little bit. You get 1v9 fights later on when you get 6. Definitely a decent champion, but not that S tier level for sure. Diana, I'll put this one. She's going to be back of B tier. I think she's just a farm bot. Like, you skirmish fine. You farm well. You do objectives quick. But I feel like you get outscaled eventually. Mid-game, you're pretty weak compared to other champions. I think once you get your first item, you're strong, right? Compared to most champions. But still, when people get 2 items, 3 items, you're kind of just outpaced. And I just don't like that. Jarvan, I'm going to put Jarvan in back of A tier. I think Jarvan's decent. He's not going to be... He's worse than Vi for sure. They play similar roles, Jarvan and Vi. But I think he's also easy to play. He can farm well. He can gank well. Doesn't have too many weaknesses. His skirmishing isn't the best in early and mid game, which is kind of different to what it used to be. But definitely not bad. Bel'Veth. Nah, I think Bel'Veth is better than Jarvan. Definitely not as strong as she should be. I think there are some new builds people are coming up with, like Coldbreaker 2nd, right, which I'm going to release a video on, if I haven't already. She's decent. Can you 1v9 every single game you play nowadays? No. Not like you used to. But you can still 1v9 games if given the right circumstances. But definitely not as strong. She does decent into a few of the S tier champions. I think Ivern and Viego, she does very well into. That's why I put her in this A tier. But she does struggle mega against the other ones that are in S tier. Hecarim, I think this is pretty fair. She's a bit stronger than Lilia, but not that strong that it's like an issue. Like he's not like season 13 strong, which is great news for junglers. But yeah, he's not too strong. He's not that weak. He's pretty much a farm bot. You spike hard on one item, you spike hard on two items. After that, you're pretty much useless. Don't really like it. Kind of struggles into these champions with that have CC, right? And not going to you can't. So the thing about Hecarim is you're not going to champions with CC and you're not going to champions that can skirmish. So it's hard for you to fit in right now in this meta. You can't just sit in that in between. You can beat the B, C tier champions, but you can't beat the A and S tier champions. Evelynn, I would put C tier. I think this champion is just kind of gutted, which I know it sounds bad, but I enjoy. I think the champion's like annoying to play against, right? But I think the nerfs they put on her are a bit too massive. I think they can't just ruined her kit. Like you need I don't know, you need to buff her base damage for it to be relevant again, in my opinion. Master Yi, I think he's stronger than Diana, but not the Bork nerf's gonna hit him, so you can put him B tier for sure. It can really put him anywhere. Really depends on how how well your team plays with it, right? But it's not gonna be that disgusting of a champion, but he's not strong as well. Xin Zhao. This is A, in my opinion. I think this, by the way, I think Xin Zhao is one of the most underrated champions in the game right now. I think once you win any skirmish, once you have 6, when it's like a 3v3 or a 3v4, like you're so strong in mid game, you're so strong in the early game. Your late game is not weak, contrary to popular belief. Your ult does so much in team fights. I think you have to put him in that A tier. Kindred, I think Kindred is rather weak, but when I say weak, it's because I play her, right? So I know like she's weak, but she's not weak compared to like say Lily or anything. But she's definitely a lot weaker than she used to be, and yeah, it's depressing. But I will say she's around that Bel'Veth level. I think Bel'Veth and Kindred are always going to be on par with each other. They kind of do similar things and they build similar items, so they're always going to be like in similar spots in the meta. But yeah, I just feel like he doesn't beat the S tier champions, but he kind of smokes all the B and C tier champions. So yeah, Kayn. I think the thing about Kayn is blue Kayn and red Kayn. If you're blue Kayn, then you can be A tier, right? You can be here. But if you're red Kayn, then I'll probably put you down like in B tier, to be honest. I think the assassins are not as strong in jungle as they used to be, given how tanky everyone is right nowadays. But he's definitely, if you snowball and you can get going with him, he's always going to be an issue. But yeah, not too strong. So Taliyah is going to be C tier. Just hasn't been strong in a while. The item changes didn't help her. She's going to stay in that C tier. Kha'Zix, I'm going to put just above Xin. I think Kha'Zix is very good into a lot of the S tier champions. It's good into all the B and C tier champions. The champions that counter her are really counter him are really the ones in A tier, right? The thing about Kha'Zix is I think you're very, very strong, but the skill required to play it is quite top notch. You can't really do what you used to be able to do, which is just one shot people and get out, right? Because of how tanky everyone is nowadays. But you're still able to do like the regular things, like take Drake quickly, like looking for skirmishes when people are walking, when rotating, and being able to kill them there. But you're not as strong in the sense that you can't 1v9 games in Kha'Zix anymore. So that's why I'm going to put him in this A tier. Warwick, I think Warwick is pretty, it really depends on what elo you played in. If you're playing it in low elo, he would be A tier. Otherwise, B tier. I think he's above a Mumu though. Just low elo stomper. He's good in low elo because you fight a lot for no reason. If you fight a lot for no reason, Warwick's good. But if you have like, if people know when to take fights against you, then Warwick is just a bad champion in my opinion. Nidalee, I think, is decent. Not too good, not too bad. I put her above Bel'Veth. Decent champion, not the worst, not the best. Kind of still performs the same role she used to. Rammus, just situational. This one's situational. Depends on who you're playing against. If you're playing against a Belfica Kindred, you can put him S tier. Playing against a Viego, you can put him S tier. Otherwise, not the best when you're playing against mages. Nunu, I would put A tier, just behind, I would say, but behind Xin Zhao. Just a strong champion. You gank a lot, you skirmish well, you take objectives quick. Decent. Poppy is just situational again. If you play against champions with dashes, you're useful. Otherwise, you're not. Shaco, I'm actually going to put A tier. I think it's completely broken what he can do right now. Actually, no, I'll put him middle of A tier. Behind Nunu, probably. Kind of just annoying to play against. Always going to be a solo queue issue. Zac, I would put A tier in front of Fiddlesticks. I think Zac is mega broken. He could easily be S tier, but I think nobody knows how to play against him. So that's the issue. Rengar, I'll put B tier behind Diana. I mean, this champion, honestly, don't know what his strengths are. I think he's just a bad champ. And unless you get super far ahead early, he's a bad champ. Echo, I think is decent, but not the greatest. I'll put him... I'd be comfortable putting him in B tier above... on top of B tier, I'd be comfortable putting him there. Rek'Sai, I think, is underrated. I think she's S tier if you know how to play it. Very, very underrated. Briar, just bad champion, to be honest. I want to put him in D tier, but he's actually not that bad. Like, he's not that bad, but, like, I want to put him there. I would say he's probably just a bit better than Rengar. Karthus, I'll put A tier. I think he's right here. Can interchange it with Jarvan. Back of A tier, I think he struggles because you can't really do what you used to be able to do, which is just one-shot everyone. Like, the item nerfs meant that there was less AP in the game, and that really hurt Karthus, I think. But he's always going to be a strong champion, in my opinion. Wukong. Wukong. B tier champion. Strong champion. Nobody knows how to play with it in Soki because people don't want to wait for tier 6, so you're going to be weak champion. Gragas, I think, is a champion that I feel like has been mega underrated as well in this new split. I think he's very strong. If you just build Cosmic Drive on him, I feel like you get your E up every 4 seconds. You do a lot of damage. You can tank a lot. You're just annoying to play against. You have CC and you skirmish well. Strong champion. I think Sejuani, not the best solo queue champion, so I'm going to put it just behind Wukong. In pro play, he's going to be broken, but in solo queue, again, you don't carry as hard, so you can't really do much. Okay, here comes Graves. Graves is S tier easily. That champ is completely busted. I permaban it. Don't like playing against it. Lee Sin. Lee Sin's hard to say. I think Lee Sin's better than Diana, but he's not a good champion for sure. Shyvana, similar to Lee Sin. You can farm well, but you're not one-shotting people like you used to, right? It's decent. Maokai D tier, worst champion in solo queue to ever play. It's like Sejuani, but 10 times worse. Just don't pick it if you want LP. Talon, I'm going to move him up a bit. I think he's A tier. He was A tier last patch, I think I put, right? But I think he's going to be same spot. Volibear. Yeah, he's going to take a bit of... The 2 seconds nerf is whatever. Depends, actually. If you watch my new video on AP Volibear and you know how to play it, then I'll put him high. But if you play the Sundered build, I think it's not as strong. I think he's back of A tier if you play the Sundered build. But if you play the AP build, I think he's ahead of Kha'Zix. Actually, I'll put him ahead of Vi just because he counters Vi. Pantheon, D tier. Brand, let's say it would be fair to put him here. Trundle, D tier. Mordekaiser is situational. If you play it into Skarner, it's actually quite good. So that's a thing some people need to know. Against Udyr and Skarner, Mordekaiser is quite a good counter pick. Gwen, I know she got nerfed a little bit. I still think she's S tier. But I could understand if people want to move her down to behind Zac. But I still think she's S tier. I think her 1v9 potential is too crazy. Rumble, D tier, no burst, nothing. Just not a good champion right now. Morgana, situational. Good into certain champions, but not good into champions that have low mobility. Sylas, this is a champion that surprised me probably the most in these new patches. I just think this champion is like a lot stronger than I thought. I think I'm just going to put him above B tier. The thing about Sylas is you're very flip. You either 1v9 or you're completely useless. So if you get a lead early, you're S tier. If you don't, you're D tier. So that's kind of how it works. Actually, you'll never be D tier, but you're not going to be great, you know. Mundo, I think Mundo is S tier. I would say above Gwen. Is he above Rek'Sai? I think they're even, to be honest. They do different things. But yeah, Mundo's Natty Nat plays it. You guys already know if you watch him. Strong champion, farms well, skirmishes well, tanky as hell. Pretty much Udyr, but a bit weaker. Skarner, but a bit weaker. It's kind of like Udyr, Skarner, and Mundo all do the same thing. Actually, I'll move him up a bit. I think he's behind Viego. Neeko jungle. Honestly, hard for me to rate it because I don't play it. But from what I've seen, I'll say around here. It's good at farming, good at doing objectives, very good ganks, right? But I think the champion is just so bad if people know how to invade you. Because if, like, there's a Xin Zhao invading you, you can't really do much as Neeko jungle, can you? So I don't really like it. Olaf, I'm going to put C tier as well. Just not a good champion. I think he's worse than Taliyah, to be honest. Taliyah is number 1 here. And like that. Do you have all the junglers covered? I mean, these aren't really junglers. Oh, sorry, Zara, of course. Zyra. I'm going to put him B tier. Actually, no. I think Zara's stronger than Karthus. I'll put him here. I think Karthus and Zara are pretty similar, but Zara's just a bit more annoying to play against. Like, when you're playing Zara, you want these hard engaged champions. So if you look here, there aren't really any hard engage, right? You got this guy who's soft. Who like Zara is obviously going to. I meant Nocturne is soft, right? Because you can ult in right straight in. Zara can't really react. Graves the same thing, but against Udyr, Skarner, she's definitely decent. But yeah, you kind of need your team to play with you in the sense that your team can't engage while you're trying to play back. Just go through these quickly. Zed, I think, is decent. Actually, very underrated, I think he is. But put him right next to Sylas. In the jungle, Tark, I don't know anything about. Kiana, I think he's a C tier. Just not that good of a clear anymore. Got nerfed to Mega Heart. Nefiri, D tier, sucks. Teemo is actually, unironically, here. Not bad, not like as bad as people would think, but it's definitely not strong. I mean, Charles did get Challenger playing Teemo jungle, so maybe I should move it here, right? Actually, you know what? Just for Charles, we'll move it to B tier, in the middle of the pack B tier. Teemo jungle, middle of the pack B tier. Shen jungle, Wasteman thing, but I guess it's decent. Decent enough. I think he's just not that good though. People really like it. But yeah, that's my tier list, guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to ask me any questions about it, just feel free to jump into the Discord and let me know. If you have any videos you want to see, just put it down. I've got a lot of time. I got knocked out because of PC issues. I lost the playoffs, which is very sad. I nearly cried about it. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what videos you want to see, and I'll probably have the time to do them. Thank you all for watching. Watch my stream, join my Discord, sub to my YouTube, like this video, comment on this video if you have any ideas or have any improvements you want to see. And yeah, love you all. This tier list is going to be published in the section in the Discord. See you guys.